If you all know anything about me, you probably know that I love TypeScript. It's a phenomenal language, except let's be fair, is it really a language? TypeScript can't be run. You can't take TypeScript code and run it. You have to transpile it into JavaScript before it can run because TypeScript isn't a real language. TypeScript is a way to write JavaScript with a bunch of additional syntax. And in the end, effectively, TypeScript is a linter. It runs over your code. What does this mean and how does this affect you as a TypeScript developer? Let's talk a bit about it. First, I think it's important to define a linter. The term linter is usually used to describe a process that runs over your code to check for specific things. Linters can check for anything from are your semicolons in the right place to are you using tabs correctly to are you awaiting your promises when you execute them. And all of these types of things are where linters are really strong. TypeScript doesn't seem like that though, right? Like its role isn't to check your code. Wait, it kind of is. But its role isn't to tell you how to write the code. Wait, it kind of can be. And here's where things start to get blurry. A lot of what linters and things like ESLint have traditionally been used for has a lot of overlap with the goals of TypeScript. And in the end, both of these things are trying to make it so that we as developers can think less about the rules that can be programmed away out of our minds. And that's why both ESLint and TypeScript are so strong and such essential parts of the stacks that we build in, because there's a bunch of different things that can go wrong in our code that are pretty easy for a compiler and a checker of some form to notice and catch us on. Like if we have an import that's not being used, or we don't have an import that is being used. These types of things are relatively easy for things running over our code to check and catch as we write it. And this is where TypeScript strengths really shine, is what you get when you run TypeScript over your code. You could argue that only half of TypeScript is a linter because TypeScript has two very distinct parts. One of those parts is the compiler that converts TypeScript into JavaScript. And one could argue that that compiler's mere existence means that TypeScript isn't just a linter. It is a compiler, it is a language, it is a way to write code that becomes different code. And in being just that, it is a language. But the value that we get out of TypeScript is not from the compilation step. The value that we get from TypeScript is in the checking step, because you can compile your TypeScript even if all your types are wrong and still get JavaScript output. But the type checker is a separate thing that lets you know when your expectations and assumptions around your types are wrong and actually gives you the red squiggly lines that we've all grown to know and love. Because TypeScript is two parts, it is confusing to categorize and define in these ways. It really was different in that sense. From day one, TypeScript was both a compiler and a syntax checker, and most of what we associate with and think about when we talk about TypeScript is the syntax and the checking that comes with it. And as such, most of what we are experiencing when we use TypeScript every day is not the TypeScript compiler or language, it's the TypeScript linter. Because of that, I think it's fair to say TypeScript is just a linter, because that's how we experience it. If you like this video and you want to hear more about the weird and incorrect ways people use TypeScript, got a video about all those right there if you want to check it out. Thank you guys as always. Peace, nerds.